But thank you. Good morning, everyone. And I think we'll have a few more people join shortly as well. But given time zones, I wanted to get us started. So I'm going to hand over our UNHCR representative. He's briefing us virtually from Kabul. Mr. Arafat Jamal, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and good evening to all of you from Kabul. I'm going to describe the situation at the borders of Afghanistan, which I think is of significance because of the human suffering that is occurring, because of the impacts it is having on Afghanistan, the impacts on the region, and potential global repercussions. The return of a refugee is normally a cause for celebration. It's the end of an exile, a period of liminality. Afghans have been displaced across borders for the past 4 decades, and at their time of need, Pakistan, Iran, and other countries have been there for them. They have opened up their larders, they have opened up their hospitals, their schools, their subsidized food, and they have welcomed them, and they have most importantly protected them from danger, from war, from persecution, and other hazards. So the first thing we need to say, and we would like to acknowledge, is the extreme generosity of Pakistan and Iran, who have exemplified global responsibility sharing and have upheld the principles of international refugee law. However, today what we are seeing is the undignified, disorganized, and massive exodus of Afghans from both countries, which is generating enormous pressures on a homeland that is willing to receive them and yet utterly unprepared to do so. We are calling for restraint, for resources, for dialogue, and for international cooperation to stem an evolving chaotic situation and to foster a more stable outcome for all of us. I'm going to describe the situation, the response, and provide a few concluding remarks. Since the spring of this year, first Pakistan, then Iran, and now possibly others such as Tajikistan, are fomenting the mass return of Afghan refugees. Some people are moving in a voluntary fashion, but others are not. Those holding official refugee status in Pakistan and Iran have to date been largely exempted. However, even those without official status can be considered to be in a refugee-like situation and may have a fear of being returned to Afghanistan. Of concern to us is the scale, the intensity, and the manner in which returns are occurring. In terms of the scale, over 1.6 million Afghans have returned from both Pakistan and Iran this year alone, including 1.3 million from Iran. UNHCR had forecasted about 1.4 million returns for 2025. As you can see, the reality has far surpassed our predictions, and we are, as yet, only in July. The intensity is also of concern. At the Iran-Afghanistan border in Islam Kala, where I just was a few days ago, and to which I'm heading again tomorrow, we are seeing peaks of over 40,000 people a day. And on the 4th of July, we actually saw 50,000 people coming across that borders. Many of these returnees are arriving having been abruptly uprooted and having undergone arduous, exhausting, and degrading journeys. They arrive tired, disoriented, brutalized, and often in despair, and they sprawl throughout a crowded center in often 40 degrees centigrade heat. And while they are from Afghanistan, they often appear to be not of Afghanistan. Often born abroad, with better education and different cultural norms, their outlook is different from and often at odds with present-day Afghanistan. We are particularly concerned about the fate of women and girls in a country in which their most basic human rights are at risk and not respected. Turning to the response, what we are seeing on the one hand is a genuine welcome from all levels of Afghan society, whether it be the de facto authorities, civil society, and others. We are also seeing a true whole of UN response, where all of us are coalescing and doing what needs to be done. We are providing the food, the water, the relief items, the protection, and the onward transport. But we are doing that with scarcely any funds. At the moment, UNHCR's operation is only 28% funded, and increasingly constrained budgets mean that we are living on borrowed funds, diverting from within Afghanistan and diverting globally to meet this response. We are also trying to stretch our response. And daily, I'm in conversations with my colleagues to say, should we give one blanket instead of 4 to a family? Should we give one meal instead of 3? These are heartbreaking and soul-destroying conversations, but it's the reality that we have with our funding situation. Turning to the future prospects, what we are seeing with these returns is precarity layered upon poverty, upon drought, human rights abuses, and an unstable region. In other words, we are having a deeply impoverished people coming to a country that is itself, while welcoming, wholly unprepared to receive them. A recent UNDP report has shown that 70% of Afghans live at the subsistence level. Adding to this deep poverty, the FAO has just issued a drought alert. And of course, the abysmal human rights situation, particularly for women and girls, makes for a desperate situation. In addition to that, this is of course a region that has seen 2 wars in the last 2 months. We foresee dramatic challenges in housing, protecting and gainfully employing returnees in a parched and stagnant nation. And many will be left with a desperate choice. Do they flee or do they fight? Do they come home, find nothing to do, and simply bounce back to Iran, to Turkey, and on to Europe? Or particularly if they are working age men, are they going to be victims of those groups that are prowling the countryside looking for eager recruits for their various causes? In conclusion, we would like to call upon the international community to remember Afghanistan and to support it. Billions have been wasted on war. Now is the time to invest in peace. We also call upon the nations in the region to come to the table to discuss solutions for Afghans that uphold dignified, safe, and voluntary return, and that focus on building bridges, creating economic opportunities, and stabilizing communities. We believe that if they come to the table, we can at least discuss matters in a systematic manner and enable dignified return that creates economic growth. We also take heart from the recent General Assembly resolution that requests UNHCR and IOM to facilitate voluntary, safe, and dignified return, and with its call for international cooperation on Afghanistan. Handled with calm, foresight, and compassion, we believe that returns can be a force for stability, economic growth, and regional harmony. But handled haphazardly, returns will inevitably lead to instability, to unrest, and to onward movements. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Jamal. Now we'll take a few questions. Maybe we'll start, Amelie, please, with AFP.
Thank you. Amélie Bottelier from AFP News Agency. Thank you on behalf of the UN Correspondent Association for doing this briefing. You said that the prediction of the UNHCR for the returns have been surpassed. So do you have any kind of new predictions for this year? And especially, what do you expect? I mean, Iran said that they want to expel 4 million, or at least 4 million Afghan refugees or nationals to leave the countries quickly. So do you expect this kind of number to return to Afghanistan? Thank you.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Of course, predictions is a tricky game, but what we are anticipating, and I must say that this is obviously subject to change, is we predict that as an upward number, it could be 3 million coming into Afghanistan this year.
Miriam, please. Thank you.
Hi, this is Miriam Ramadi with Afghanistan International. Thank you for your time and this briefing. There are reports that more than 500,000 Afghans have crossed or been expelled from Iran forcibly in the past 16 days. That included 400 unaccompanied children that have been deported. How did you address that? What kind of support does UNHCR given especially to those children? And do you think the help that you have is actually going to be enough for the more refugees who are going to be expelled forcibly from Iran?
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. And you're absolutely right. This is of great concern. And I spent actually most of my afternoon with UNICEF today talking precisely about this issue. It is of deep concern. And I think that UNICEF, which is very much present at the border, is looking into this issue of unaccompanied children. We are also looking into the specific needs of infants and so forth. We've set up breastfeeding centers for them. But I fully agree that unaccompanied children is of deep concern. They are being identified at the moment, and UNICEF is doing their best to trace them. But it is a growing phenomenon, and I must confess that we don't have the full answer. We're not exactly sure why there's a large number of them at the moment. And this is also the case at the Pakistan borders, where we've seen a rise in the number of unaccompanied children.
Do you have the numbers of who are willingly coming back to Afghanistan and the ones who are being deported? Do you have the numbers exactly to this day or not?
It's a bit difficult to determine because we're trying to triangulate numbers from both sides of the border. So I can't give an exact figure, but what I can say that there is a high percentage amongst those returning who are returning under coercion.
Okay, another follow-up. The discrimination that the refugees are going through, is UNHCR documenting these discrimination? And also, are you talking to the Iranian officials, especially them accusing refugees of espionage and deporting them? And how, if you're talking to the Iranian officials, how is that talk going? Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. Of course, that would be more my counterpart in Tehran, and she is in constant contact with the Iranians. What I can say is that there has been a very negative impact of different reports on social media, and certainly we have heard from official channels that the Iranians are extremely concerned about different accusations being leveled at Afghans, and a lot of disinformation. So one thing that we need to do is counter this disinformation and deal with the facts rather than these rumors. So some of what you're referring to is very much rumors that are being spread on social media, disinformation.
Thank you. And I think I see Ephraim from Arab Daily News. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this briefing. I have two questions. When you say if the refugee return situation is handled with calm, foresight, and compassion, those returns can be a force for stability, economic growth, and regional harmony. Can you please elaborate a little bit more on that? What does that mean in terms of policies, either from within Afghanistan and the countries around? Beginning with the first steps, what do you foresee should happen for that to become a positive return? Second, have you been in touch with the Taliban at all? And I'm wondering what is their attitude and how are they viewing these returns and how are they approaching this new situation? Thank you so much.
Wonderful question. So on the first one, of course, today's briefing is all about the border. And the border is a cause of concern and suffering today. But in the long term, our big concern is what happens to these people when they come, when they're in Afghanistan. And as I met with them and I spoke to them, you realize that many of them are born in Tehran or other parts of Iran. They do not know this country. They have nothing to do. You speak to Heratis in Afghanistan, and they also wonder how they can cope with this mass influx of people. So when we talk about stability, economic growth, and regional cooperation, what we're saying is, one, in terms of the first aspect of our program that deals with stability, is different interventions intended to anchor people back at home. What we've mapped out is that there are about 20 provinces within the country that are areas, what we consider priority areas of return. If you even take it down a bit further, there are 5 provinces to which 80% of returnees arrive. Our programs normally would be focusing on housing for these people, employment opportunities, infrastructure in terms of clinics and schools. Unfortunately, this year, with the massive and brutal funding cuts that we've experienced, we have had to slash those. So whereas previously we were able to provide, for example, a $1,000 grant to people to start a small business, this year we've had to slash those programs. Similarly, housing, etc. So that's the first pillar, stability. Secondly, economic growth. This is our investment in businesses, and this is also really trying to create attractive places. Afghanistan is a beautiful, it's an agriculturally rich, it is a culturally rich place, and it has human capital that is extremely hardworking and skilled. It could be an attractive place for investment. Obviously, there's some global issues that prevent investment, but even despite that, we do believe that it can be, that an investment in Afghanistan can reap many rewards. And then in terms of the regional cooperation, what we believe, and we can see an example, for example, with Uzbekistan, where Uzbekistan has taken a policy of trying to build bridges with Afghanistan. They have a free port on the border. It is aimed at encouraging trade between not only Afghanistan, but also Pakistan, India, and further afield. We believe that this can be an example, and we believe that by talking at the table, countries can agree to bridging assistance and can cooperate together. To your second part of the question on the Taliban, I think that one observation that I have, and I've been here a year, is that almost without exception, all Afghans have been welcoming of their brothers and sisters to come home. And this includes the Taliban. The Taliban have consistently said that they welcome home Afghans, and I think the intention is there. They don't always have the resources, but they are there at the borders, and they are doing their best to receive people. So this is what we're witnessing with the Taliban.
Thank you. And I think I saw a question first in the back. You're okay? Okay, we'll go up here, and then I know there's questions online as well. Over to you. Yes, please.
Where women and girls cannot go to school, cannot see a doctor. I mean, what kind of investment and peace are you talking about?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part of your question, madam.
I said, how can you talk about investing in a country where women and young girls cannot go to school, cannot see a doctor? And I wanted to know what kind of peace are you talking about?
Absolutely, madam. On the one hand, I agree with you, and on the other hand, I disagree, because I would also say, how can you not invest in the human beings in this country? Let me give an example on the women in particular. At the moment, our programs reach about 50% of our beneficiaries are women. And in the darkness that exists in this country on the situation of women's rights, we are nonetheless able to do things for women. And I think this is an important point to make. Yes, this is the worst country in the world for women's rights. And yet, with adequate funding, the United Nations is able to reach women. There is, for example, a 3-story mall that we have built in Herat just for women. That we have women entrepreneurs, we have women mobile phone operators, and we have a training scheme. This is actually not even illegal. This is, and I was very curious when I came here to find out how are we able to do this. With our money, when we have money and the resources, we are actually helping those elements of society that want to help women. And there are in fact many men, including Taliban themselves, who disagree with the policies of Kandahar and who are willing to stick their necks out to help women, but they need our support. And one of the most striking negative consequences of the funding cuts that we have is that we are unable to help those who want to make a change. Of course, Madame, it is entirely, if you look at it as let's invest in this country, it's open for business, that would be a nonsense. But at the same time, I have to deal with the realities. And my reality is, what can I do with the circumstances prevailing, and how can I help people? And I do, and we are able to help people. We are able to train midwives. We are able to, as I said, help women entrepreneurs as well.
Thank you. And I think there's one more question in the back. Over to you, sir. And then we will go online.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the briefing. This is Ahmed Ali with Sphinx News TV. Regarding the massive funding cuts your agency has had to deal with, is this something you feel will become the new norm moving forward, or is there a level of optimism amongst your agency that funding could progressively increase? I know that you said you are urging a major international response, but how will you encourage member states to increase funding to this dire humanitarian situation? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us can work in this business if we don't hold out hope. But at the same time, I've worked with the UN for 30 years, and it's never been as brutal as this in terms of the funding cuts. And it's not just one country; it's several countries. I think that we need to make the case that the UN has a pivotal role in situations like this for the humanitarian response, but also in terms of humanitarian diplomacy. This is what I mean by bringing the parties to the table. A lot of what is happening could be prevented if people were discussing it and able to take a systematic approach. We also, I think, need to make the case that as I just explained to the previous questioner, that we can do things that others cannot. We can reach women. We do have a certain status, and we are able to do this. But I personally would like to do much more to make the case and to demonstrate that every day we are making a difference, and every day that we are cut, we are unable to make a difference to people's lives. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. And I think we do have one question online. Abdel Hamid, I think it's over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Abdel Hamid Sayam. I'm from the Arabic daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. I apologize if I missed part of your briefing. I'm curious to know how is the situation on the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Is there a movement there? Are there some refugees coming back to Afghanistan? And the second, the issue of refugees it didn't start with Taliban, as you know. It started long time ago, during the Soviet occupation, during the years of fighting, during the Civil War, during the years of US occupation, 20 years of brutality. But when you follow the situation now as if the blame only on this current leadership. So how do you approach this issue of refugees, which has been for so many years, and there have been millions of them, and I have personal experience. I was working for the UN, and I came to the region also. Thank you, Mr. Jamal.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdel Hamid. You're, of course, correct. It has been over 4 decades of refugees, and Afghans have fled from so many different wars and governments, starting with the Soviet invasion, through to the Mujahideen wars, through to the first Taliban, then the foreign forces, and now the second Taliban. And they have also returned at different points. So there's a huge amount of complexity in that. That's certainly true. And in fact, paradoxically, what we're seeing at the moment is, although there's many of the returns are deportations, many of them are also voluntary returns. And one of the reasons for that is that after 40 years, for the last 4 years, the country has been at peace. It's not been a very pleasant place in terms of the laws and so forth, but it is not experiencing conflict. So yes, you are correct. It is not one cause. It is not just the Taliban. There's a lot of different reasons that people have fled.
I see there is a question online, but I cannot see who from here. Let's just pause for a second. If there is a question online, it's over to you.
Yeah, this is, can you hear me?
Stefano. Yeah, is that you, Stefano?
Yes, this is Stefano Vaccara, Voce di New York, Ital Press. This is a question that they asked before in the last 3-4 years, so I'm going to ask you too. And this is about the resolution of August 2021 of the Security Council. In that resolution, any Afghan person, civilian, that wanted to leave Afghanistan, the Taliban had to let them leave. It didn't specify, in 2021. That was a fact. If Afghanistan, if Afghani want to leave, and the people will have, another nation will have to welcome them as a refugee. So what happened to this Security Council resolution? It's still something that the Taliban regime should take in consideration, and what the UN, what the UN think about this resolution passed in August 2021.
Yeah, we of course, as the UN Refugee Agency globally, we support the right for everybody to seek asylum from persecution, regardless of a Security Council resolution or not. So that's a universally applicable principle. We also have, specific to Afghanistan, a non-return advisory. In other words, that anybody who is a refugee or who is an Afghan with refugee in a refugee-like situation should not be returned forcibly to the country. That remains an application. Of course, we also do feel that there are certain groups, particularly women and girls, and certain minorities who are particularly vulnerable in this context, and who certainly should enjoy the right to seek asylum wherever they can find it.
Thank you. So I think we'll have one more question in the room, and then we'll wrap up this briefing. So I think, Miriam, you had one more follow-up. Over to you.
Yeah, one more follow-up, Mr. Jamal. You said disinformation. We all know that the Islamic Republic of Iran have been saying for years that they want to deport and send back Afghan refugees. And they started the crackdown after the 12 days war with Israel. And this is not misinformation, because the officials themselves announced that they are sending back refugees because they think of espionage and the Afghan refugees who are working so hard in Iran, and they are basic workers, have worked with Israel to send, basically spy for them. So one is that I'm from Herat. I know the heat is really bad there. It's 40 degrees and 104 Fahrenheit. What does UNHCR do to help those refugees at the border who are there for many days to find a destination because they don't have anywhere to go? So the heat brings up a lot of sickness, and people need help. Is there any kind of services that you offer those refugees to actually reduce the pain that they are going through? Thank you.
No, this is an excellent question, and of course, as you are a Herati, you know the situation very well, and you come from the most, in my opinion, the most beautiful part of Afghanistan, but which is in trouble at the moment. First, on the disinformation part, I'm sorry if I wasn't precise enough. The deportations are fact. That is not disinformation. What I was saying is more, there has also been on the social media different campaigns whipping up sentiment against Afghans on the basis of espionage, etc. And this I have, so there's a difference. Of course, the deportation is an official policy. So I should have clarified on that aspect. Secondly, on the and I would say that the official lines that we do here is there's a lot of reference to cultural, linguistic, and religious ties between the two countries as well. So we are hoping very much to appeal to those compassionate instincts in order to have a collaboration between the two countries. Secondly, on the climatic conditions, it is very hot. And then, as you are aware, we have the 120-day dust storm as well, so people are not in a good state. What I can say is that every day, and I was there about 2 weeks ago, but I get pictures every day, and I'll go tomorrow. We are improving. We have put up 5 different big warehouses to provide shade with air conditioning, not just sort of fans in them, rather. And then we are putting up shades across the place so that people are able to at least shelter. They do not stay for days. What we do is we try to make sure that they may stay for hours, which is not nice, of course. We prioritize women with babies and families in the first instance, and we provide transport to Herat where they can find better shelter. So generally, people are not staying overnight unless they are deported late in the evening. So we are doing our best to, as the whole UN family, to mitigate the climatic conditions. But you're right, it's a miserable situation in general, but we are doing our best every day.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Mr. Jamal. I know it's late there, so we appreciate you spending some time with us. So thank you so much, and thank all of you. I know there's also a new briefing coming up as well. Thank you so much.